So basically, a few of you maybe know me from local, maybe some of you don't. My name is Anthony Casey. I went to school here in Castledermot, and I'm running in the general election in Kildare South. Dr. Gerry here is running for the Irish Freedom Party as well in Kildare North. So I invited him here today to amalgamate the two come-on groups to show what we're about. People can ask a few questions if they want. And yeah, so really, I suppose I'm going to answer why I'm running first, and maybe Dr. Waters can, or Gerry as he prefers being called, can speak for himself. Over the last few years, I suppose I've noticed a bit of a worrying trend, maybe over the last 5 years especially. A few worrying trends. One being the affordability of Ireland, mass emigration, that most people can't afford to live here anymore. A lot of people are going overseas. A lot of our most qualified people are going overseas because they can't afford a house anymore. In Kildare alone, that housing has jumped up 40% since 5 years. And wages haven't gone up to match. So the likes of, I'm a father of 3, and I want to make sure my kids have an affordable future here in Ireland. It's one part of the reason I'm running. Another part is there has been crime rates that have escalated. We're an all-time high, in Kildare, it's a 20-year high crime rate at the moment. That's not being investigated. It's very shocking stuff. 14 out of 15 of the Garda stations around Kildare have noted that this crime rate is sky high, and the guards are leaving in record numbers, unfortunately. So this is a very scary scenario, especially when you're a father. There are other reasons. I think there's a few draconian bills maybe they're trying to pass through, like hate speech without being really put to referendums. I guess they're stomping over the people. And I know historically a lot of people would have voted Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and you get that at the doors. I got that a lot of the local elections. And I think there's a kind of romantic kind of fantasy that they are the parties of old. And I think that's very, very much not the case anymore. And a lot of people are worried about, RTE have done a great job on trying to present any other party opposing as extremists. And I believe the extremists are in Leinster House. I'm having a lot of people come up to me in the marketplaces. There is a few other bills, such as a teachers' bill and nursing bill, to incentivise teachers and nurses to stay within Ireland, maybe in way of paying back their intuition at college, and maybe incentivising every year of consecutive work they've done after they have qualified. I think the hospital sector is unfortunately struggling. A lot of people going in nowadays hospital on trolleys.
Not really work properly, which maybe I'm wrong about. I don't know, because I don't really know a lot about politics. What I do know is that Ireland has gone down the wrong road. Ireland has been misled and betrayed by the professionals within it. That includes the medical profession, the legal profession, and the mass media. They've been totally, absolutely, completely dishonest to you people. How do I know? Because I've been in science since 1971. That's a long, long time. Probably longer than most of you are around. And I know that there are certain things have been totally, absolutely, completely dishonest. One of them is the concept of anthropogenic climate change, global warming, global cooling. When I was in college in Galway in 1973 or 74, we were doing chemistry, and we were told that we were entering into a period of global cooling. That there were going to be glaciers down to the Empire State Building. It was all over the magazines. And we were told that it was being caused by man's intervention. It was a man-made problem. And for 10 years, they went on telling us this was going to be global cooling. And then at the beginning of the 80s, they said, no, it's global warming. And then they went through 30 years of global warming. And all during that period, due to my scientific training, I'm saying, no, this is not what's going on. And then 10 years ago, they turned around and said, because the Earth didn't agree with the global warming, they switched to global climate change. And that's having it both ways. And we in Ireland have followed on down the road of this rubbish of net zero. Absolute rubbish. And I believe that they're now using, not only have to introduce, carbon dioxide, which is the building blocks of all life, and does not cause a greenhouse effect. At the level that it's at, it's not causing a greenhouse effect. Take it from me. I can explain it all to you. I can explain to you about the absorption of the black body radiation by the vibration of the covalent bond in the carbon dioxide molecule, if anybody wants to go into it. But the reality of it is, and then of course they throw in methane, and they're talking about, the permafrost melting and all that. Rubbish. Methane is a volatile gas. Anybody who did secondary science knows they can put methane into a flask and pop in a wick, and it goes pop. Methane immediately oxidizes in the presence of oxygen, or rather, in a very, very short time, methane is gone and has actually been turned into water and carbon dioxide. These are realities, and they know it. They know it. And then, of course, they try to introduce nitrogen not so long ago. Nitrogen that makes up 78% of the atmosphere that we're breathing is, of course, there's nitrites and nitrates, and it's all very complicated. But take it from me, nitrogen is not a problem as far as global warming, global cooling, or climate change goes. And again, I can argue that and I can debate with anybody. And I offered to debate it I ran for the European elections, and I offered to debate it with the Green Party and everybody. They ran away from me. They ran away from me as if I was a skunk. Like if there was a smell off me like a skunk, they wouldn't hum around any longer, Maybe there is, but I did actually have to laugh today. Where was I then? Yeah, so what am I doing here? I'm here because I know that I've got certain information. I know I have the ability to get it across. And I've been called upon, not least by my friends and my family, and said, Dad, you got to get in there. We owe it to our children to get truth back into government. And that's what I'm there for. Now, just to prove I'm not going on the gravy train, I do not intend to, I do intend to take my salary, but I intend to donate my salary to, fundamentally, this is a kind of fraud problem when you get into COVID. And the reason I'm here is because I was struck from the medical register. I was suspended from the medical register because I wouldn't administer the vaccine. Point blank. I wouldn't wear a mask, I wouldn't social distance, I wouldn't go down that road. Because I knew as a doctor of 40 years, as a GP of 40 years, I knew there was no virus in the community that was worthy of the lockdowns, what they were doing to people. I screamed from the rooftops, and they ignored me. Now again, we can go into it, and we can debate and we can discuss it, but overall, I realised that there was an evenness and a mendacity and dishonesty within the medical profession. But these guys knew what I knew. They were educated the same way as I was. And the crazy thing, I wrote to the ICGP, the Department of Health, the medical council, telling them what I knew and wanting them to argue me. I begged with my academic body to correct my error in thinking, if I had error in thinking. You know what the reply was? Nothing. Zilch. Not a sausage. They didn't reply to me. Now, how crazy is that? Like, if I were wrong, it should be so easy to destroy me. They didn't. They took my license to work away. But fortunately, because I'm absolutely brilliant at making money, I'm wealthy. I'm not really wealthy. This guy's thinking, I'm going to finance them. No. But I happen to be, I'm a bus driver's son from Drimmen in Dublin. came out of a corporation housing estate, put myself through medical school on my wits, working. I've got the capacity to work very, very hard, or I did, over a 50-year period. And I've also been very wise as far as investing in that goes. So I end up in a situation where I'm relatively wealthy. But as I say, because of that, I intend not to take, or rather take my salary and donate it. And I will be donating it to things like the vaccine injured and to people who want to get in to politics. I intend to do that. Now, I will take my expenses out of that, and my expense may require a yacht in the Bahamas or a Bentley. No, I have a Bentley, sorry. So, you guys have seen it. So, no, I have more money than I could spend, primarily because I'm a skin fluid. I can live off the clippings of tin. I don't play golf, and I don't. Well, I have 2 pints a week. I drink it through a straw, and I don't smoke. And all my kids are bloody richer than I am, because again they were taught the work ethic, and because I got an early start in life in gynecology and obstetrics, I've got sons as old as him, so that, as I say, I don't need. So to prove I'm not going into a gravy train, or I do intend to donate my money, So why should you vote for me? I'm not going to solve the problems. I'm not going to solve the problems that all other politicians will promise to do. I would actually hope to go in there and put the politicians who feet to the fire. I'd like to think they'd be terrified of me. I'd like to think that they were ducking into hallways to get away from me. The Green Party and the communists and the socialists. I argued economics with Michael D. Higgins in Galway University back in the early 70s. He was a lecturer in sociology in UCG back in the 70s. And I did argue, and I remember saying to him, I vividly remember saying to him, you communists, you socialists, all alike, you all say, we've got to share. I'll give something to share, and then you won't share. And that is my philosophy of socialism, that socialists it isn't that they love the poor, you just hate the rich, like me. So when I say rich, that is a joke. I'm not actually rich, I just give the impression. So, I think I've got it due to 50 years of really, really hard work. I ran a single-handed practice in Selbridge. I did 3 surgeries a day, 5.5 days a week, because I actually loved it. I loved dealing with my patients. I absolutely, and, I worked with KDOC for years, and I loved doing KDOC. I don't know if any of you ever were up in KDOC. I love doing that. I love the interaction. I just see I'm a person's person. I'm a communicator. So I love doing what I did. And you might well say, well, you're at a stage where you should retire anyway. That's my decision. I wasn't up to the medical council to decide when I go. And I'm physically fit, and I'm mentally compass mentis, I think, to a degree. And so I think I have the right to continue on. So that's why I'm here. I say I came down here tonight to learn how to conduct a run at the general election. So that's what I expect all you people to tell me how to do it. Okay? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I think it's important to say, me and Gerry are coming at this from similar places, but Gerry have expertise in the medical industry, and he has the knowledge with the carbon or the climate emergency crisis that they're trying to push at the moment. A lot of the bills I'm trying to push is incentivizing young people to stay in the country and to tackle crime rates. They're controversial issues because they've been made controversial issues. But the stats are there. People are leaving. Crime rate is going through the roof. People cannot afford housing with the wages. If you see a graph from the 80s to now, Like I think the average price of a house in Kildare at the moment is 355 grand. But it's also, there is ways of tackling this kind of thing. It's not, nobody's against immigration. That has worked for years in all countries. But mass uncontrolled immigration is a problem. Emigration is a problem. We want our families here. We want to be able to offer them a future in Ireland. I'm very proud to be sitting beside Dr. Waters. I've been following him. I was a court clerk in Carlow, and I had a podcast on my spare time, which wasn't to the, you can't really have free speech when you're a civil servant. And I learned that the hard way because I questioned Dr. Vincent Carroll on the rollout of COVID. It was anti-government narrative and my powers were stripped from me. I couldn't sit court. I went on sick leave and fought it with a union guy and bet it. And I decided to leave 6 months later off my own bat. At the moment, I'm a carer for my partner's father. He has dementia. And this has given me a little bit of time to run in the general. So I'm happy that there is, we have our Come On, our Kildare Come On. We meet every second weekend in Clanart Court in Athy. I know Gerry has a lot of followership, massive social media ever since COVID came out. And he stood up very bravely and spoke out about trends he was seeing. So I think, I'm happy as a colleague of Dr. Gerry Waters that we can amalgamate people, followers, and help each other out, canvassing. It's 5 weeks. That's most likely what we have here. 29th of November is what the Irish Daily Mail has said. So I think it's the future. We can't be thinking of my grandfather voted Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and all. It's the future of our kids we really need to think about now. And it's the working class also that's hit. So I welcome the floor to questions. There's my old leaflets there. Me and Gerry will have our new leaflets for the general election very soon. They're ordered. So I welcome anyone to take any of the draft motions I have and to ask us questions while you're here. Because we're here now to find out what we're about, and if you're happy supporting us going forward.
Incidentally, I think we complement one another to an extent, We come from different areas of the spectrum, and we probably see things very, very different in many, many ways. So you might ask, what am I doing here with the Irish Freedom Party? Well, I was approached by them, but as well, before I made any decision, I got on to a lady by the name of Tracy O'Mahony. Have any of you heard of Tracy O'Mahony? Yeah. I got on to Tracy O'Mahony and I said, who are these guys? I really didn't know because there's such a sort of littering of sort of national and freedom and sovereign people and all sorts of things. So I said, what about, these guys? And she said, well, Gerry, Tracy's a good friend of mine. And she says, Gerry, they're the ones that most align with your ideology. And I said, what's my ideology? She says, don't think about it, it's mine. It's as simple as that. You just believe me that so in other words, they most align with Tracy O'Mahony's ideology. And I was told to accept it, And being the coward I am, I said, okay, Tracy, that's fine. I'm what you call a pragmatic man. When I'm told by a woman that is the way it is.
Tracy O'Mahony is the barrister, if anyone knows. She's been vital for the cause, I think. She's highly decorated.
Massively honest person.
Yeah.
Massively honest person. Very, very straight down the line. And I'm in total agreement with everything she tells me to be in agreement with.
Her partner, her husband, he will say out straight.
I will make Mick's mouth shoots off before his brain. He's a lovely guy. He's a good. Again, I consider them friends.
Just one thing. You were talking about keeping our nurses here and our doctors. I don't know about doctors, but at the moment, I have a granddaughter training to be a nurse, right? Now, she's in her third year. For the first 3 years, she doesn't get any pay, right? for 4 years, you get 80% of the nurse's pay, right? And you were talking about trying to keep them here. But if you were working for low wages for 3 years, I'm sure you wouldn't work for the same employer when you are qualified. And I don't blame them. And poor Ricky, she will head off where she'll be appreciated, where she'll be given.
You can't blame them for leaving. There's
to go to Australia, they're provided with a place to live in. They'll have shorter working hours, better conditions. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
And how the nurses agreed, how the nurses organisation agreed to this slave labour.
But that is the setup.
A young one doing 12-hour shifts, right? Surely in a ward on her own, maybe one other nurse with 15 patients. And we wonder why people are dying in hospitals of that. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think that's the reason people are dying in hospitals. You know, that would be to suggest that in some way or other they're incompetent or negligent. I know you didn't say that, but by the same token, it's the working conditions that the nurses' organisations, you know, in effect the unions that accept it. Like I would accept that as nurses come through that they serve an apprenticeship in the same way as you serve an apprenticeship in pretty much anything. And by the time you're sort of coming towards the end of it that you're getting, but they should be getting a living wage from the start.
I heard, just to finish off, her 2 days that she's off, she works in a nursing home.
to make a few extra.
I don't blame her. If she hops on that, she has her next year whenever she's finished, if she goes to Australia or Canada.
Yeah, this is the thing. What we're trying to. This is. I invite you to take this. This is a sum of the ideas from sitting down with nurses that would incentivize them to stay. So on a nursing act, I have removing the hiring embargo at the moment. Incentive-based service rewards, like incentives per year after they're qualified. A mobility transfer system. The civil service has this, but the nursings don't. So if you're from here and you have to work in Beaumont Hospital, you can't transfer to Portlaoise. And it makes it very difficult for them. So there's a few different ideas. These are bills that I've drafted, but it's until I get in that I can put these motions to the table. But I invite you to take them and to show your daughter and ask her, granddaughter, ask her what would incentivize her to stay. What would make her, and I know the sun, obviously, of Australia and all that is going to shine, but we have to offer these people are qualified, especially right now. I see people are going on trolleys in Kildare, especially Naas Hospital. People are terrified to go there for hours on end. So we need to look at ways that we can keep our qualified here, especially nurses, teachers. We need to put an emphasis on the trades in senior cycles in schools, promote tradesmen. Tradesmen are some of the best paid people in the country. And it's never said. It's always pushed down the college route. Sorry, Doctor.
Well, no, I would encourage people, and I do encourage people, for the last couple of years, I've been encouraging people to go into the trades. Because that, no matter what way you cut it, block layers and,
electricians
and carpenters. Now, people kind of think in terms of, us living in a virtual world and computerized things and all that. I think they're the things that are going to be replaced very, very quickly by AI, and, but the guy who can go and, repair plumbing or that.
Yeah, exactly. You always need plumbers.
So I've always encouraged people to go, and I've always encouraged people to go into things like, geology and that, for mining and, you know what I mean? Because, it's going to get harder and harder to get the stuff that we need, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of interest. I can't stay here all night, so if anybody got specific questions for me, I probably won't be able to answer anyway, so. Sorry?
Talk about the medical board and nurses and stuff like this, but most of them say that budget requirements states this is why we can't give to nurses the next X, Y, and Z, and doctors and say the same. But yet you can hire private consultants and with fees that are.
Yeah, but this is the dishonesty, isn't it?
But it's the same throughout the market, even construction and stuff like that. But most of it's all top heavy with administration and stuff like that, which aren't really doctors. To give a fee like even for this hospital and stuff like that, fees there for 40 million for the solid, But like none of this isn't documented, or because it's outside of the board where they're saying they're hiring in, we don't have qualified people to take in consultants different areas. So how do you feel about the consultants that are taken in and given these things?
What are you talking about, medical consultants? Oh, but again, you see, it's all about sort of supply and demand and the power of the people to. A lot of us don't know how things work, but really how things work is about money. Or I begin to believe more and more it's about blackmail or something. Because some of the things that go on in government cannot be accounted for just by money. I believe, and I do an international Zoom twice a week from all over the world, and there's an ex-CIA man comes on and chats to me. Well, I say the 100 would be on it. But I said to him, what is going on? Like the likes of Trudeau and these people, why are these people so inclined to exhibit what is evil and obviously evil? You know what I mean? Like when you think of the truckers and, in Canada, I'm sure you're all familiar with the truckers in Canada, where anybody who donated to it had their money stolen off them and stopped, and the bank account stopped. That was pure evil. What accounts for that? And this guy says, blackmail. He says, this is blackmail. And since a few years ago, you could blackmail people over homosexuality. That was the strong one, now it's pedophilia. This guy was convinced and says he knows from the inside it's about pedophilia. It's about these people being taken away on junkets, put up in hotels with cameras in them. And they've got the goods on an awful lot of these. I'm not saying that's true of Irish politicians, but that's what he says is the problem in international politics. And that is what is, in effect, driving on globalism. And if you think of what is globalism, globalism is, in effect, the concentration of hundreds of billions, if not trillions, in the hands of a small group of people. It gets to the stage, and when you think that a billion is 1,000 million, and a million will make a difference to all your lives, even his. So if somebody came along and said, here's a billion, it would be very difficult for the vast majority of people to refuse it. That is a reality. And a billion is 1,000 million. That you could bribe 1,000 people with $1 million each, or 500,000, 2,000 with 500,000. The reality of these people getting their hands on so much money has meant that they have absolute ultimate power. Not only can they actually bribe or blackmail or they can pay to have you shot, Not apparently in Dublin it's fairly cheap anyway. When I was pricing, it was no, I didn't go pricing. But so what I said, I did not put a price on anybody's head, even the monk.
There's no way so for nothing, to be honest about it.
No, all I'm saying is that if you've got access to millions, if not billions, well, then you can do anything. And unfortunately, the people who have that access are all psychopaths. They have psychopathic tendencies. And a psychopathic tendency is that you don't give a fuck about anybody else. It's as simple as that. You don't care. You don't see them as human, You
have a question?
Yeah, I see you have the arrest warrant out for Gates in Holland at the moment.
For who?
Bill Gates.
Yes. Yeah. It's very interesting. It's a very, very interesting development.
I watched your interview with Ahmed Malik.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, very good. So in Irish
Am I smaller than you thought I was?
No.
Other people can't say, I thought you were a bigger man.
Well, I'm just wondering, the medical council, Irish medical council, surely God, the people on there are not stupid.
Sorry?
The Irish medical council, when it all came to the court, they were the ones in control. The Irish medical council. How were they so compromised?
Well, that's the question I have. How did these 12 doctors who knew me, knew of me? I was probably one of the better known doctors in the country because I was on television. I was on television with Marty Weedman, Sienna Campbell and Mary Kennedy for Live at 3 and Open House and all those things. So I was probably one of the best known GPs in Ireland. And all these guys knew me. A pristine career. People could complain to the medical council about me. generally because I wouldn't let them into my practice, you know. Honest to God, that's, people come in and want to get into my practice and I say, no. And they say, well, is this a black thing? And I say, I don't give a damn what colour you are, you know. So, you know, you're not letting me in because I'm a Muslim or something. I don't care what you are. You're just not getting into my practice. I don't like you, you know. And so,
the medical council pushed through the COVID agenda.
Sorry?
The medical council pushed the COVID agenda.
Well, that's the thing. What was the pressure? I don't know. But, oh, sorry, I get distracted. I distract myself very easily.
So, who was dictating the medical council?
Oh, I've absolutely no doubt that it was well, it was Leo Varadkar, in effect, who had his hands, it has his hands on the tiller at that point in time because he was a medical doctor. He misled the government into believing that there was a virus, a pathogenic virus. I was saying there wasn't. And I was writing to him and communicating with him through his second in command, who happened to be a doctor that I knew. But then when it came to the medical council, because I was saying, you know, like, tell Leo that this is not happening. There's nothing in the community. How do I know? 40 years as a GP. 40 years seeing the pattern. I could see there was nothing there. And I did great.
So the chemists were informed on doctors to the medical council. So how was that all happening?
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why those 11 doctors sat in a room, you know, and judged me and decided after me talking at them for an hour and a half, telling them all the facts, that they held their hand up to strike me off.
I think there's definitely an injection of globalism brought into Irish politics in the last few years. It's not why them 12 doctors are doing it. It's how they got them to all go along with it. Like, there is a lot of other doctors like Dr. Waters who stood up at that time. But in Ireland, and sure the main Robin Malone, who invented it, stood back and said, you know, this can't be done. But unfortunately, the WHO, the WEF, all of these people have their hand now in, and the European Union isn't what it used to be. I know the Irish Freedom Party are Eurosceptic because we feel like our rights we're not as sovereign.
10 doctors out of 3,000 stood up.
Less than that. And, well, you got to realise that they took me out. They took me out because I was well known, I was verbose and upfront. And they realised that if they took Gerry Waters out, they could take anybody out. And that message, that my head was put on the spike. Now, as Pat Morrissey said, he said, but Gerry, you dived in like a kamikaze pilot. He used the word, you were kamikaze. Like, you dived in.
Sacrificial.
Yeah, and I was a sacrificial lamb. But I didn't mind being a sacrificial lamb because I was 70 at the time. I didn't want Pat Morrissey, who was 44, or De Bruyne, who was 54, with families and that. I didn't want them to take it out. And that all sounds very magnanimous and big of me. Yeah, maybe I was. No, I was aware that they were going to take somebody out. And I wanted to get in ahead of those guys.
It's funny from talking about the experience here where Dr. Waters was coming from his medical profession and felt like he had to sacrifice his career to stand up for this. I was in a similar position for free speech, let's say. I was exercising my free speech as a civil servant and decided against my partner's wishes that I was going to walk away, that I couldn't stomach someone owning my tongue 24/7. And unfortunately, this has creeped into all jobs now. I know people in Irish Rail and different places, they have to sign a social media clause, or they can't say that they're associated with any parties. What it's doing, it's stopping ordinary people from standing up to defend their communities by getting involved to be a counsellor or anything like that. You can't do that and they shouldn't own you 24/7. If you're a welder, you should be judged on your welding quality and your conduct in work. So I suppose I'm coming from a free speech side of my experience, and Dr. Waters it is a similar thing. Yeah, it is.
It's what you know and what you're involved in. And when you know and you're involved in something, you have an obligation to stand up for the morality of that. And people often say to me, you did a very good job as a doctor. I did a job as a doctor in the same way as I expect. I'm an ordinary guy. I expect a mechanic to do a good job on my car, or a plumber to do a good job, or a plasterer to do a good job. I just want your best. And for 40 years, I tried to do my best. It's not to say that I always got it right, because, you know, being human, you lose your temper and you get patients can be awful annoying at times. Yeah.
How much was each jab for?
What? €60 each time they injected it. And yeah, but you say, what's that? What does that mean? The fact of the matter is they were paying €18 to give the flu jab, and they gave nearly 4 times it to give the vaccine jab. But even more relevant than that was that when they introduced the COVID, how did they manage to get doctors? In December 2019, if I sent a patient home without examining them at all for anything, I was leaving myself open to not only litigation but disciplinary move. You know, so if a patient came in, I didn't examine them, I didn't look at them, and then suddenly, I would have been disciplined, and then suddenly 2 months later, or in March 2020, we were told to send patients home and not examine them. We're told not to treat them. Like that was such a shock to my system. I'm thinking, like a couple of weeks ago, literally a week ago, if I had sent a patient home, and I took students from Trinity for years, and I used to say to the students, the one way of staying out of court is to examine every patient. And they say, but I'm not very good at looking at the back of the eye, or, this, that, and the other. Even listening to the chest. It sounds simple to listen to a chest, but it actually takes a while to differentiate between which bubbles and which squeaks and which squawks are what. And they say, well, I'm not very good. And they say, yeah, but the one sure way of getting to be good is to do it. So the more often you do it. So, or if somebody comes in with a pain in their stomach, put them up on the couch and put your hand on it. Say, but I'm not very good at, differentiating whether the thing is appendix or just sort of guarding in the muscle. And have we a nurse here? Any nurses now? Doctors? Chemists? Vets? Are sure? No. I'm just saying that it's like anything, you get good at it. And I always say to the students, even if you're not good at it, put them up there and make a show of having done it. When you take your driving test, you're always sort of move your mirror, so as when you get into the car, you adjust the mirror. The driving instructors ever tell you that now? Yeah, well, that's what they do. I was a driving instructor at one stage, actually, before I did medicine. But, you get in and you adjust your mirror to let the tester know that you're using the mirror. You're aware of a thing called a mirror in the car, rather than looking at your makeup or your eyeshadow or something. So that, there are some things you emphasize, and I would say to the students, emphasize the fact that you're examining them. You will not be disciplined if you miss something. You will be disciplined if you don't do something. I always said that. And then suddenly they told us not to do it. And I say, hey, come on, what's happening to medical ethics? So your question is why they do that?
Yeah.
I have to believe. And remember, these are all people. The medical council is populated by people kind of my age, in their 50s and 60s, consultants, and they were all well heeled in that. I can't believe these people who fell for money. I don't think it was. I have to believe there's something else. So
apparently they thought they were doing the right thing.
No, they didn't. I tell you what, because if they'd known they did the right thing, they would have asked me why I was thinking the way I was. If they for 1 minute thought that, or they would have debated me or argued me. Not one of the 11 or 12 consultants that were sitting in that room engaged me. Not one of them got into the ring with me. These were respiratory physicians. These were all sorts of experts. What?
They were well aware of the principles.
They knew, and they'd seen my correspondence over the year. And as I say, I can't change my story now as to what happened during 2020 because it's all recorded in the High Court. Right. He was a part of it. He was a part of it. And so that, what I'm saying is, the other thing I come back to, you ask, how did they manage to sort of bring in the pathogenicity of the virus? The virus was no worse than a normal winter flu. Yeah, right. So how they managed to bring that in?
What? School and doctors were prescribing a particular medicine.
Well, you see, well, you really don't want to go down that road because I'm going to contradict you, you know. There were no miracle drugs. There were no miracle drugs required because there was nothing there to cure.
No, but if you did prescribe a particular drug.
Well, yeah. I know, but I know that. So what I'm saying is there was no need, and the writing of ivermectin would, to me, was buying into the concept that there was a terrible virus out there that required, and that to me was dishonest. You know.
I have another question. You have a question for Dr. Waters?
Yeah, can I just ask you, Gerry, what are the implications for us in this country of people coming here from all over the world?
Medically,
are there any?
Yeah, without a doubt, you know, they can bring in diseases that.
Although I mean the unvetted, no passports.
Yeah, as I said, they can bring in diseases, but I wouldn't be so worried about that insofar as that those diseases can be treated and can be diagnosed, and that wouldn't be a major worry. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be wrong of me to give the impression that I'd be terrified of people coming in, vetted or unvetted. Partly because when I was in practice, I remember a guy coming into me and said, "Jesus, Gerry, your waiting room is like in Tepe Airport out there, you know." It was all full of blacks and everything. I didn't care who people were. I just didn't care. Everybody, you know, I just didn't care.
I suppose a big part of it as well is the hospital waiting lists are going to be under more pressure with nurses leaving and mass.
Yeah, but remember what the hospitals are being populated by Filipino nurses, and they're often excellent nurses, but they've been brought in and paid more. You know what I mean? You know, I know. The fact of the matter is the medical system, but not only the administration of the medical system, but the practice of medicine has collapsed. You know, and what's going to happen now is an awful lot of GPs are going to want to get out of it because there's going to be an awful lot of annoyed people around when they realise what has been done to them. You know,
I think that's why it's a big benefit to have a doctor running in the general election, because the corruption only goes one way and a narrative is only spun one way. And if you get a seat inside Leinster House, the cameras have to turn to you.
They can't ignore me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I mean. If I asked,
maybe they should ignore me.
If I ask my doctor that question,
yeah,
which is a genuine concern for a lot of people. Like if I go to certain countries, I would be told you need to get these injections against this and against that and the other. Well, then it has to work the other way. Then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anybody logical.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, anything that they would be bringing in could probably be contained. You know, like I'm not justifying, you know, but that wouldn't. I don't think that's the biggest problem. Right. You know, I think the sort of concept, and I believe they're bringing these people in to cause civil unrest.
Oh yeah.
I believe this is provocation. I believe they're trying to cause the people to rise up. I believe that is the whole thing. And I believe they would love to have riots. They'd love to have attacks on immigrants and whatever. They would love to have that. And in fact, I'd go so far as to say that they'll have, you know, agent provocateurs who will cause the problem.
Yeah.
So what I'd say to you is, what would happen then? They bring in martial law, and who will be lifted? Me. And Tracy O'Mahony, you know what I mean? And Dolores Cahill, and, you know, anybody who put their head above the parapet will be lifted. I believe that, but again, that's I've never been to prison yet. Yes.
Yeah,
haven't been caught.
I was wondering, in terms of education, would any of you like to share your thoughts on the new curriculum for SVAG, just the gender ideology?
I don't think you need to ask that question. Yeah. The reality of it is, it's self-evident that it is ridiculous. And, you know, and as for, you know, trans and that, there are two bloody genders.
I think as well, it's what you actually alluded to with the CIA guy talking. There is a normalization of some of the most sincere agendas are sincere. Sorry, not sincere. insincere or sinister, was the word I was looking for, agendas. And I think it's again an overreach by, there is a department in the World Economic Forum who pushed that, without going too far into it. Like it's no coincidence all these things are happening across the world in all these different countries at the same time. Like America now, they're talking about the election and these mass immigration of people who are going to vote for the currently elected. And this is what we face. Like the foreign vote happened in the local elections, and unfortunately it was too much to overcome. So you're fighting the propaganda of RTE and the foreign vote. I think that there's a slither of hope in Ireland right now that if you wake people up, Irish people up, to say the safety and affordability has gone out of this country, they're pushing you out and they're bringing these people in. They're giving them incentives, like Ukrainians here get ARP system to get free college. By them two tokens alone, students now can't get accommodation and can't afford college. But more than that, free travel, they're going back and they have brand new Skodas outside Carlow. There's Ukrainian families in Carlow who have apartments are gone back to Ukraine and renting to Irish for extortionate money. It's incredible what's happened in this country, and they're forcing them out. So again, it's all part of this globalist agenda to keep themselves in power, and then whoever's rising up now, then they creep in, the hate speech bill. So if you dare say a word against it, you run the threat of being imprisoned almost.
Well, you're going to self-censor. You're going to be afraid to say.
Yeah, afraid to stand up. Yeah, so I think this is our last chance because maybe they haven't got enough people here to vote for them yet. That there's maybe a slither of hope that in 5 weeks' time, if we wake enough people at the doors, that we could get a few people in, and that will set the stage for the next 5 years, where we can get more genuine people, not career politicians, but actual people who are rising up because they're concerned citizens with the expertise. So that's the hope here.
Are there any numbers, Anthony, on the fake citizenships that have been given out? I'm assuming they've been voted.
Not on the fake citizenships. I know on citizenship, 700,000 have been processed this year. In the last 3 years, it's only been 50,000. They can vote. I do have a friend in the post office who's saying that there is people, they're going out in batch numbers the last few months, and he's stopped and asked people, just how long are you here? 18 months. That's against the Constitution, if that's right. Now that's an allegory. That's what he's telling me, and you can't fight that. You just have to prepare for the best, But I don't want to hold you all night. Is there any other questions for Gerry before we go?
As Trump says, you've got to make the landslide so big that they can't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's as simple as that. The people have to get out and make sure that the proportionally small number of people who really shouldn't be voting, who are not Irish and have no real interest in the country, that the numbers must be sort of blown away by the number. And you people are going to have to do that. It's as simple as that. You people are going to, and people like you are going to have to come out and walk around with people like me to campaign and to canvass and get our. Now, I would say that because of the fact that I'm not a typical politician, obviously people are going to have to sell me as a person. That may well be difficult to do. But at the end of the day, that's what I'm, so are you. You're in the same situation. Pardon?
What area of Kildare?
I'm North Kildare.
That's from where?
That's from where I live in Selbridge. Down to Nace. I don't know where the line crosses.
No, I'm from Baldy. I'll be voting there south.
I'm sorry, that's nice to hear. Shouldn't have been nice for me.
I don't know what it's like here in Castledermot, but in our local rural area, covered and Allen Parish, Wood, Ballyteen, Robertstown, wherever, Dollymore, there's no planning permission being given for one-off houses, right? But I can go to Flood's Cross, which is a 15-minute drive from where I live, and there's 335 pods housing over 1,000 standards, right? No planning permission needed.
I believe at the moment it's going through.
Whatsoever.
They're changing the plan permission moment. That was told that they're going to house Ukrainians, and it did, and now they've told the Ukrainians you have 90 days to leave. So they're changing the change of use is going through at the moment.
We're going to bring in
What are you going to put in instead?
Well, they haven't said, but we think it's going to be
I'll be honest about it.
just single men, like they're doing that loan in Thornton Hall, and
Not families ago.
not families, no.
That's
I'll be honest about it. All the protests, all the marches, whatever it meant, the only thing, the best ally that country has, staying in action, is fire. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. I'm not saying no more after that, but that's the only thing that really works. And wherever people, it's up to people whether how willing they want to get or whatever, but nothing changes. No one relieves. You won't get rid of people who are powerful without a fight. And there is
well, that comes down to the Second Amendment in America. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms.
That's why we're alone.
You know, and as somebody said to me years ago, you know, years and years ago, if the German people had a Second Amendment, the Jews would not have been wiped out, or you know what I mean. You wouldn't have had what happens. And the idea of the Second Amendment is the right of organised militias outside the control of the government, because throughout history, or throughout the 20th century, the governments have killed more of their own people than wars have killed in Cambodia and Vietnam and all over the world. Stalin and so in effect, we need protection from our governments, believe it or not. That's why we need a Second Amendment. I'm not suggesting everybody should go out and get armed. By the same token, a gun is a remarkable instrument in the sense that it can make a 7-stone woman as big as an 8-stone man, or 10 of them, you know what I mean? That is the reality. It's the great leveler.
I think as well, I have 2 points on what you're saying. And I know you're saying, we've seen Newtown and Kennedy where people protest for a long time and then they just bring people in anyway. So I think there's a couple of things you can do. People talk about mass deportations. You can't do that. You can't legally do it, but you can't illegally do it either, because the UN would stop and you'd have war. So you have to go by different mechanisms. Unfortunately, we're in the EU and they have a Eurodac system. Nobody can come here from these countries directly to Ireland. They have to go through other safe countries first, and they're fingerprinted. So when you invoke a Eurodac system, you get rid of a lot of people who are here illegally straight off the bat, and that's one thing I'd be pushing if I did get a seat, to bring them back by Eurodac. Second thing is, there is an initiative called Sinn Féin that I have started with a few other people, and this isn't an Irish Freedom Party policy, but it's maybe the nationalist in me coming out a little bit, that there's 32 counties have point men in them, and if there's something happening in their local area, we verify it and we put it out to the people because they deserve to know. It's a different way, and then you can call a solidarity stance for people from different counties, and it's peaceful, but it's strength in numbers. It's coordinated organisation.
I see where you're coming from, but 2 points. When people come in, they're fingerprinted to see what other safe countries are in, but they're not fingerprinted to see are they on the criminal database.
Yes, but it might make no difference if we get the Eurodac, because they're going back anyway. They'll be sent out of Ireland, because we got hit with the Rwanda Pact and.
They're getting no money, they're getting no freedoms.
Well, you have to turn the tap off the incentives,
Your government invited all these fuckers, invited all these people in different languages. Come here and we'll have your house within 3 or 4
Why did they do that? That's more relevant.
Yeah.
Why was it done?
Yeah, these people aren't for Ireland.
That comes back. Well, I believe that this has been run from Europe, I believe.
Yes.
The World Economic Forum. And, and I believe that they're endeavouring to destroy Western society, Western Christian society, as we understand it. The family, undermine the family, undermine,
When they take over the country, the native people are suffering. We have the Australian.
But look, some people think that it's too. If that's true, some people think that's too big a machine to fight. But I don't think that's true, because there is countries who have successfully pushed back against this. France and Hungary, Germany now as well. So I think that we're at a point where you can get people in who actually look after Irish people, who represent the Irish people and not taking orders from Brussels. So I think we can do that now.
Let's talk about Floods Cross for a minute. They say that they got planning overnight is it's not right. Floods Cross is going on for about 5 years before anything went on in, let's say, the campsite. Because there was a pumping station built just a couple of hundred yards up the road. There was sewer pipe put all around the road, and not on the road where you normally see sewer pipe. We're in on Flood's land. And they went all around the inside of the hedge on the roadside, all around his land, onto the pumping station, and a pipe came straight down to the road opposite the campsite. This all happened 4 years before the campsite was set up. So all that work that was put into place, and I knew a chap that worked on the road bridge, they're on bus now, but they'd done the road books. Yeah. And I spoke to a chap, and he asked, why are we working sewer pipes out in field, private land? We don't go on council land on the road. I said, oh, it's for private development. There's going to be a lot of houses built out here. And he was saying, he was going to build a brick wall with everything. Nothing was making sense. But now, when we turn around and we see what's happened out there now, and they connected up to it while we were out there protesting, actually connected up to that sewer line from that campsite. So to say that they got planning overnight, Floods Cross has been in the planning, I'd say, for at least 5 years.
Yep.
So they had been expecting these guys coming in.
Well, I don't think you necessarily follow on. I think that perhaps it's the other way around. The fact that they had already put the sewer pipes in and all made it convenient so maybe there was just downright corruption in putting those pipes down in the first place. Somebody paid, somebody on the landowner paid, and then having had the sewer pipes in, they said, "Great, this is ideal to put these 1,500 or 2,000 people in on."
To be honest, they're all there made up of mostly councillors, right? Now, I can only speak for Kildare County Council, right? From about years of experience of dealing with these. Some of the most corrupt, evil, and twisted people were in Kildare County Council as councillors. Some of them have been elected. Some of them will be, hopefully, they're going forward again, hoping to be elected again. And if you're corrupt when you're a councillor, you have a better chance of getting more riches when you're a TD or a minister.
But this is going to be really important to monitor, to stand at the voting polls on voting day and make sure there is nothing sleight of hand happening, because Tom McDonald got elected as a councillor and he went up and said, something's not right with them polls. I had 2 boxes missing from this town alone. And they said they didn't know where they were. So this is why I tried to bring in the camera system. That's going to be too late. We just have to go with what it is. But the problem is that we do have a 20-year high crime rate. And I'm not saying that's because of this, that, and the other. Now, we can say that, but you can't say that as a TD. Well, what you can say is that, well, why is the rest of Europe, why do they equate crime with ethnicity and we don't? Let's do that, and let's just find where the chips may fall.
We have an obligation to actually know who's committing the crimes. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, investigate them.
We have an obligation to our people to actually be able to say what was, where were these people born, or it's as simple as that. And if there's a proportion of people who are committing crimes from outside the country, well, then you have a problem.
You have a question?
Anyway.
Question there for you, Gerry. You're going into cameras, and we're obviously going to dates. How are you for supports? I mean, you have a niche.
I don't know yet because I'm only in this since last Monday, so I don't know.
Could some of us help you in this area?
Oh yeah. The reality of it is what we intend to do. I don't know if this is the normal sort of format, but we intend to go into a housing estate with maybe 20 or 40 or 50 people and send them off in twos, and then those people, if they can't say, well, Gerry Waters is here, you want to meet Gerry, so give me a whistle, and I will go up and meet them, I can't visit every house, but if we can hit so many houses and let them know that Gerry Waters, because I do have name recognition,
But look, I'm quite sure you've been touched with Andy.
What do you think I'm doing here? I'm here trying to rock this, you can't say I'll pay you more.
Well, I think there's a commonality there. If you do need help,
yeah, for the same token, you know, I wouldn't presume that you people would come up and canvass for me, because you're going to work for. But if somebody wanted to, I'd be thrilled. You know?
It is an aspect of it.
Yeah.
People don't want to canvass their own area. Don't be knocking on their own neighbours.
That's right. Yes, you're better off.
Yeah.
It's a bit like being a guard. You don't want to be a guard on your own. Yeah. No, without a doubt, if we'll be in contact. At the moment, they're putting up a thing on WhatsApp for volunteers. And today, I think I got 16 people sort of volunteered.
Yeah.
So the guy that's running it is kind of blown over by the fact. He says, Jesus, they're flowing in. You know?
Yeah.
Now, whether these people turn up or when these people realise what a con man I am, you know?
Yeah, I think when, like, we have the Irish Daily Mail around the 29th, but when that's confirmed, then I'd say a lot more people will stand up and say, you know.
And again, you see, I'm a firm believer in sort of fatigue. People talk about, get the posters out the first day up in post. I believe there's kind of poster fatigue, that after a while, after a week of seeing the posters up, you don't see them. You know, so maybe you're better off just putting the posters up the last 2 weeks, you know what I mean, in different places or something. I also think that will there be fatigue of the teams? I would imagine sort of 4 weeks of, you know, going out 3 or 4 nights a week or whatever. And that's why, you know, it'd be great if you had 100 people or 4,000.
Well, what we might do is advertise, and I plan on doing a couple of nights like this in different towns, like Kildare town, or, you know, if I can help Gerry do that in Nace, let's say, or, you know, if we can advertise, look, if you want to find out what we're about, you know, like this, bring the coffee. And
I suppose to the extent, what's important is that what you people go out of here with, you know, and the idea, are these guys worth working for? What they're going for? Like, it's one thing, our electability. It's our ability to do the job when we get in there. So what will my job be? My job will be to rock the boat. My job will be to be a bastard. My job will be to actually make people, you know, anybody who's dishonest in anything feel uncomfortable.
So will you be our Andrew Bridgen?
It wasn't.
Andrew Bridgen.
Again, I know the guy, I've spoken to the guy. Yeah. You would hope that you could get in there with, you see, but Andrew has things to lose because he's got a career. Like he was 15 years or 18 years or something in the, you know, whereas I genuinely have nothing to lose, except my life. But I'm near the end of that anyway, so what, you know? But that's what people have said, you know. I would give anything to see Gerry Waters in the Dáil, you know, because, but I don't know. I don't have as much confidence in me as a lot of people do, you know.
I think there's a new breed of politician. Politicians, I suppose, rising up, and they're not career politicians because of their family wire. They're concerned people, and I think, like, I know for one, I won't be letting any globalist or draconian bills go through, and I think we all have to swear that allegiance on the flag of Ireland, that we will be there to represent and hold us accountable if we're not, and be visible to the people. You know, not to be on private jets, you know, for $5,000 and all this kind of thing. You know, you have to. I think it's recognised that there's a different breed of politician. It's done a great job in pushing the narrative to keep these people away. But there are some voices cropping up, you know, and they're afraid. They really are. A big part of the Irish Freedom Party, they're very afraid of this movement too, because they're the longest established national party. Herman Kelly is the leader of it, and he's the only kind of leader who has experience 25 years as a politician. And we have accountants, we have ex-sergeant guards, ex-civil service. There's a lot of great minds in it. Big party. And I think there's genuine fear that they're trying to dirty the name, and be sure they'll do a few more hit pieces. They did one on me, the ISD, Bill Gates crowd last week, and was complete lies. But it just shows that they are fearful. And a couple of voices are cropping up that they're trying to keep down. But this is it. We have to be in there. And as we're saying now, we're going to push back against stuff that's not in the interest of the Irish people.
You said boxes were missing out there. How can you prove that?
I'm
not asking you to, but we do know.
Yeah.
We do know corruption goes on.
Yeah. Well, you can't. I got onto not Eamon Ryan. It's not Eamon then. Owen Ryan. He's the returning officer in Nace. And I reported it because you said it to me, Gavin, you were there, and the other guy who ran Independent Ireland said there's actually, they think it's 2. They're looking for him for 3 hours. And he just said that, look, we haven't got an official report on that. And I said, well, I am officially reporting it as a candidate. And he wouldn't take it.
Why would you not take it?
I don't know, because they're represented. Yeah.
The final count before they finished up on the colour on Saturday, they gave out the tallies put up on the screen and they said these photos don't include a box missing Castledermot and a box missing.
And they actually said the box to us, so they acknowledged that.
It happened also in.
So, how did that can that happen?
Apparently the seals were different. Michael Leahy said that. Yeah.
You've got to presume that they assumed that the box would go in one direction. Like if it were just a box that represented a sort of 30-70 divide as was represented throughout the whole area, well then it would make no difference, But if they believed that it was a box that represented a swing in one direction, well then...
Unfortunately.
The guards tamper with the boxes, they take them away, they think,
anything is possible.
Well, I've seen the guards in our town taking them away. I'm just assuming that. I've seen the guards comes in at the last hour or so in box 7, and he took the boxes away.
We couldn't trace the 40,000 that was from 2 guard stations in Balbriggan.
All I think is that all we have to do is get a team of people at voting day to stand there and make sure there isn't, it's genuine.
I'll give you one example of corruption. One big example. This man here represents St. Patrick's Park in Atlantic, right? Part of
So thanks to the gods,
right? And you can explain it better about the houses are still boarded up after 15 years, 16 years.
The Kildare Council came in 2007, told us we're going out into the giant field, 10-acre field, Kildare Council land. We're going to build social houses on it. My block was picked, the three houses on it, to be demolished. And I spoke to my wife and we said, look, we're definitely not going to stand in the way of anybody getting the social house. We were glad of it. So they told us that we would move you out into the field and give you a new house. That was okay. But when it came about, somebody from Kildare Council, we'll never ever name who they are, they told me, do not look at that next field. Look at the field after that, where a developer by the name of Dundee Limited have got planning permission for 273 houses, 4 retail units and a creche, and they're landlocked. And the only way out is through your estate. And they're going to knock houses in your estate to put a roadway through it. So when I challenged the council on this, everything went up in the air. They said, no, that's not the reason. We're going to knock houses in St. Patrick's Park because of antisocial behaviour. Now there's only 40 odd houses in it. You'd see more action outside of the chip shop on the Saturday night than you would at St. Patrick's Park. But they started to spin this antisocial behaviour, until I went on to the Pat Kenny News Talk Radio. And Pat Kenny, before I went on, had 2 or 3 days with me, with his investigative journalist, looking at this scenario in our estate, and they said, definitely without a doubt, it's rotten to the core. Kildare County Council hadn't even got the bottle to put somebody from Kildare County Council on the bottle, a journalist from the Leinster Leader on to speak up for them. Pat Kenny tore shreds after. And it came out in the end that, yes, they would have to knock houses in St. Patrick's Park to get through to the next development. Now, the same guy that was over at the start of that was Michael Malone. He was county manager of Kildare County Council. The same guy that tried to take the farm off of Thomas Reid in Leeds at that time with the Intel thing. The only back at Thomas Reid, the same guy. Came in then after that, we have a guy named Peter Gerry. Nothing changed. And now we have Sandy Cabinet in Kildare County Council. A guy by the name of David Creighton, the most senior architect with Kildare County Council, was handling this since 2013. I had sat down with David Creighton at more meetings than he could shake a stick at. The man told lies on top of lies, he told lies to cover lies, and that man now is the most senior figure over that bypass in Floods Cross. They moved him from being most senior architect in Kildare County Council, he is now the top man over Floods Cross. There was a garage owner in Methangton, was very quiet during all of this. I tried to find out who the guys were on Dundee Limited. As it turned out, the local garage man was on the board of directors of Dundee Limited. It was his field. He had to step down as board of director so that Ulster Bank would buy the field. It was 5 million. They gave a promissory note for this land if the development started. It didn't start. Fiona O'Loughlin, Fianna Fáil, she was up in St. Patrick's Park. She was beating this drum the whole time. We must have this thing sorted out. She even brought in Dermot Gavin from Dirty Old Town. You remember that whole thing? She brought him in. Now, it turns out Fiona O'Loughlin, her top sponsor in Invertangle was none other than the Garage Man. So she was in Kildare County Council. She was pushing for the development to go ahead. She branded everybody in St. Patrick's Park as thugs and bullies. She brought in everything she could think of. And that was going back now, we're going back over 50 years ago. The promised tenants transfers. Some did take transfers. Homeowners got twice the market value of their homes to sell to Kildare County Council. It was all there it's all there in black and white. Anything I have said here can be easily traced back and checked out. So the homeowners, houses that was valued at 85,000, one fellow I know got 157,000 for his house. That went down throughout the estate. Now those, and they took the windows and doors out of those houses and concrete blocked them up because they were going to demolish them. Now they give a fellow 157,500 for a house just to demolish it. To me, that was crazy. That wasn't because of any antisocial behaviour. That was nonsense. But there's now 20 houses in our estate of 40 houses. Half of them is blocked up like that for the last 15 odd years.
Still.
That is corruption at the best in Kildare County Council. So, like, when you're going in and your boxes are being counted, who do you think counts these at the tally counts in Punchestown? It's all council members that are there. It's all Kildare County Council staff. It's all ex-councillors.
You have to be civil servant.
There you have it. So, like, corruption is so ripe. Like, you can go out, you can beat on people's doors, and you can have a landslide people going to the polls and voting for you, and yet they just rip them all off at the end.
Yeah, look,
That's what they say. It isn't two castes at the moment, it's two castes.
yeah.
I gotta go, folks.
Yeah, look, thanks very much for coming. Look, I think we've gone on, unless there's any urgent questions, yeah. Appreciate that. Thanks very much, everyone, for coming, and I'm here to answer any questions afterwards if you just want to have a coffee or whatever.
I can afford the anyway, so I can vote for this man.
Gerry, thanks very much for coming.
Give him 2 votes.